It all started as a retreat, a chance to escape the chaos of the city and clear my head. My friend Mike owned an old family cabin deep in the woods, far from cell towers and human contact. "It's peaceful," he had said, handing me the keys with a grin. "Exactly what you need." The drive up was uneventful, the kind of quiet you welcome after months of stress. The cabin was exactly as Mike described, small, rustic, and isolated. It sat in a clearing, surrounded by towering pines that seemed to touch the sky. Snow covered the ground in a thick, pristine layer, and the air was sharp with winter's chill. I arrived just before dusk, unloaded my bags, and started a fire in the stone hearth. The crackling flames cast a warm glow, but it did little to shake the growing unease I felt. It wasn't the cabin itself, it was the silence. The kind of silence that feels too heavy, too deliberate, like the forest was holding its breath. By the time night fell, I had convinced myself I was being paranoid. I chalked it up to exhaustion and poured myself a drink. I sat by the fire, staring out the window at the snow-covered trees. The moonlight illuminated the forest, casting long skeletal shadows. That's when I saw them, footprints in the snow. They weren't there when I arrived. I was certain of it. The prints started at the edge of the clearing and led toward the cabin, stopping just short of the front porch. There were no other tracks, no signs of someone walking away. I locked the doors immediately, my heart pounding in my chest. Who would come all the way out here? Why? And how did they leave without disturbing the snow? I spent the next hour pacing the cabin, peering out the windows and checking every door and window lock twice. The snow continued to fall, eventually covering the tracks, but the unease remained. Around midnight, I heard it. A faint knock at the door. It was so soft I almost didn't believe it happened. I froze, straining to listen. The knock came again, louder this time. "Who's there?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. No answer. The knock came again, harder now, almost insistent. I grabbed the poker from the fireplace and approached the door cautiously. Through the peephole, I could see nothing but darkness. I shouted again, "If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops." Silence. Then I heard it. Not at the door, but behind me. A creak, faint but deliberate, from inside the cabin. I spun around, the poker raised, my breath caught in my throat. The cabin was small. I could see every corner from where I stood. There was no one there. But the creak came again, this time from the loft above me. "Hello?" My voice trembled as I backed away, keeping my eyes on the ceiling. Another creak, louder now, followed by a dragging sound. My mind raced. I hadn't checked the loft when I arrived. It was just a storage space, filled with old boxes and furniture. But now it felt alive. The dragging sound grew louder, closer, until I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted for the door, flinging it open and sprinting into the snow. I didn't stop until I was halfway across the clearing, the icy air burning my lungs. When I turned back, the cabin stood silent, its windows dark. But then I saw it. A figure standing in the loft window, its silhouette outlined by the moonlight. It wasn't human. Its limbs were too long, its head cocked unnaturally to the side. It pressed a hand, if you could call it that, against the glass, its fingers splayed wide, impossibly thin. I stumbled backward, tripping over the uneven snow. When I looked up again, the figure was gone. I didn't return to the cabin. I didn't grab my bags, my keys, or even my phone. I ran to my car, praying it would start. The engine roared to life, and I tore down the snowy road without looking back. The next day, I called Mike. I told him everything, expecting him to laugh or accuse me of pulling a prank. Instead, there was a long silence. "Jake," he said finally, his voice low, "I didn't think it would find you." "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my hands trembling. "The cabin," he said. "It's been in my family for generations, but strange things happen there. My grandfather swore he saw something in the woods. My dad refused to go back after spending one night there. I thought it was just stories. I hung up on him and never spoke to him again. To this day, I don't know what I saw that night, but sometimes in the dead of winter, I dream of the cabin. And in those dreams, I see the figure in the loft window, its hand pressed against the glass, waiting for me to return.